Kaminoe.
It's a party, Arthur. Of course not.
This might be one of the most versatile frames in the game. Welcome to the level cap mag build that can easily burn through even the highest HP enemies in the game. To start, there are some things to know about mag and why I went with this build. Mag can be played in many different ways depending on your playstyle and the activity you're in. However, since this is a level cap build and the go-to place to do level cap at the moment is Cascade, we are going to be focusing on an aggressive playstyle. Before we go any further, I'll be addressing Breach Surge, since it's what most people use on mag. The Breach Surge Helminth is often used because it has a unique interaction with mag's bubble. As seen in this clip, Breach Surge creates what's known as a feedback loop due to sparks that get trapped in the bubble, which will scale to do massive damage. This allows people to kill without even really needing weapons at all. However, the problem is that sparks will not be generated on Overguard units. Some may argue that if there are other enemies in the bubble, then the surge sparks from those enemies will still help. But the problem is that often in single-target scenarios like Thrax, there is only that one Overguard unit in the bubble. These Overguard units are the only thing that takes a few shots to kill in this build and are top priority since normal enemies get one shot. Therefore, we are left with alternatives such as Nourish, Roar, Xata's Whisper, etc. In this build, I went with Xata's since Overguard is specifically weak to it, but many other Helminths work and are ultimately up to you. Here's a brief demonstration of how you want to be utilizing this build against these Overguard units. As you can see, I placed a bubble on him, stripped him of his armor, and then shot him 3 times at a slow rate of fire for demonstration purposes. Oh, and for those of you worried about the loss of crowd control by not running Breach Surge, I've got you covered once we get to the mods. But for those who are not very aware of Mag's abilities, here's a quick overview before we get to the mods. Mag's passive just pulls in loot. Her first skill, which is normally a grouping skill for her bubble, has been swapped out for Xata's Whisper to kill Overguard faster. But as previously mentioned, other options such as Nourish and Roar exist. Her second skill is her bubble, and is Mag's bread and butter. It's what we use to amplify our damage when we place enemies inside the bubble, and it also acts as a barrier between Mag and the enemy since she can shoot through it, but enemy bullets get sucked back into the bubble. Her third skill is what we are using to shield gate since it's a fast cast that also benefits teammates. Moreover, her 3 creates what's known as polarized shards when it hits enemies, and these shards can help increase our bubble damage through a loop of their own, as seen in this clip. And finally, her 4 is what we are using to AoE strip, which also affects acolytes and is done through one of her mods. Speaking of mods, here is what we are using. At first glance, you may notice the triple augment, which we will dive into first. Fracturing Crush is an absolute must in this build, since it's what allows our 4 to AoE strip 100% of enemy armor. Counterpulse is also very nice since it CCs a large AoE, and is used often since we are using Polarize as our shield gate skill. Unlike Crush, Counterpulse and this next augment are optional, but I like them to make up for the CC we are not getting from our Helminth. The third augment does a few things besides a range increase to your bubble. One of them is that it allows you to choose the bubble you want to pop on the fly. The reason you may want to do this is in case the bubble is no longer in an optimal position, or if you want to make use of the next thing the augment does, which is disarm enemies in an AoE. The disarm chance is based on strength with 200% ability strength guaranteeing a disarm. If you choose to run something else instead of one or more augments, then consider Vigorous Swap for more damage or another duration mod for quality of life. As for the rest of the mods, we have Fleeting Expertise, which depending on how aggressive you're playing could be swapped for Streamline, but I found that Fleeting Expertise is much more comfortable and common in other mag builds due to mag's spammy nature. The rest of the mods are pretty basic, and since I'm using the Worm Companion, which negates statuses and knockdowns, I don't need sure-footed and can instead mod for a bit more strength to boost our disarm chance to 100% through Power Drift. Growing Power and Molt augmented both also help me achieve this threshold, while keeping our strength high enough to always fully strip with Mags 4. And of course, the holy grail of arcanes is Arcane Energized to make sure we constantly have enough energy. The next really important part of the build is the primary. Mag's Bubble wants weapons with infinite punch-through or non-hit scan projectiles to get trapped in the bubble and hit enemies multiple times. I'll leave a list of other primaries you can use, but one of the best options is Latron Incarnon. You can replace the Riven for Hammer Shot or Vital Sense. We are also using Double Tap, since it scales multiplicatively with Serration. Here are the Incarnon upgrades I chose. The secondary choice doesn't really matter in this build as our primary is going to be doing all of the work. But for the sake of having one, you could go with any good primer such as Kuva Nucor to get max stacks of viral instantly. Same goes for our melee, but I chose to use Praetos Incarnon due to its passive movement buff. Last but not least is the Sentinel. As previously mentioned, we are using Worm Prime to help negate statuses and knockdowns. We also have it modded to boost our damage a bit and to help with survivability. In order to get Tenacious Bond activated, we are using the Volklock companion weapon due to its high base CC and the critical delay mod. These vigilante mods count towards the set bonus for the 1 on our weapon, so that's nice as well. Our Sentinel isn't modded to shoot, hence the empty mods. And that's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to drop a like and sub if you enjoyed. I'll be responding to all comments, so keep that in mind. See you in the next level cap build.